Hi, this is part 6 of the First Animation project, and we are going to start animating now. Be sure that you are on frame 0. This is very important. Let's first look for the clouds. Go to the top of your layer stack and just click on the first cloud that you have there. We need to add more frames to our total number of frames. So in this box right here, type in 350 and hit enter. Next, I'd like to call your attention to the zoom out and in tools right here for the timeline. What we want to do is see all 350 frames here in this ruler. So click here on the zoom out twice, and now you can see this is the end of the highlighted area for me. This is showing the end of the total number of frames that I put here in this field. So get that set up first. We also need to zoom out on the stage area. So click here on the zoom tool and hold your left mouse button down and pull back. And if you need to also, you can push this across so that you can see the entire piece of the cloud. Over in the Tools menu, underneath the word Layer, choose Transform Layer. Now we need to go to frame 1. You can either click and drag the scrub bar over to frame 1 if you're having trouble grabbing it, which it's best to grab it right there at the top of it. You can always just type frame 1 right in here. And then in the workspace, just click one time with the left mouse button. And what that did is create a keyframe on frame 1, and it also copied it to frame 0. Now somehow my timeline zoomed back in, so I'll just have to zoom back out again so I can see the ending of my animation. And what I want to do now is go a little beyond the end of my animation. I think I'll stop at frame 360 here. You could type it there if you want. And now we're going to hold the Shift key down and point over top of this cloud, and we're going to slide it to the right, maybe about this far. The reason I held the Shift key down is because it helps to keep it straight. All right, I didn't want the cloud going higher or lower as I pulled it across. Let's preview this by going back to frame 0 and clicking the play button. You can see it creeping along, and that's good. We don't want the clouds moving too fast. All right, I'm going to push stop. And I'll go back to frame 0 again. Over in the Layers palette, click on the next clouds. Repeat the process. Choose Transform Layer. Go to frame 1. Click once. That makes a keyframe. Then I'm going to go, I might even go past 360. They can go at a different speed. It'll look more natural if the clouds are moving at a little bit different speed. And then I'll hold Shift key down, click with the left mouse button down, and pull this one over. Now where's my last cloud? This one is actually further back. I put that one back behind the mountains. So this one's down here. Again, back to frame 0. Click on Transform Layer. Go to frame 1. Click once in a blank space here. This made the keyframe at frame 1. And then I'll go a little bit beyond my end of my animation. And up here, hold my Shift key down, push with the left mouse button, and move this one over. I'll go back to frame 0 and test. Push play. Now I've gone back to frame 0 after looking at how the clouds were working out, and they seemed pretty good. I'd like to point out something that you're going to get very familiar with, and that is that each of these layers has their own timeline information. So when I clicked here on Clouds 3, I've got the timeline for Clouds 3. And I've got the layer translation information right here with a keyframe at the end and at the beginning. If I were to click on something else that I haven't animated, such as the bushes right here, you'll see that there are no little dots. There's no little keyframe here because this is the timeline for the bushes. And you're going to get very used to this as the semester goes on. Now we're going to animate the bat. Look over in the Layers palette and click on the bat. We don't want the bat to start flying right away when our animation opens. And so we're going to move the scrub bar across the timeline to, I don't know, say frame 144-ish, about maybe a third of the way. And then underneath Tools, click on the Transform Layer icon and click once here in a blank area. What that did is created a keyframe at 144, and what that means is the bat isn't going to move from 0 to 144. It's still going to stay right there. Now, let's move to approximately 264. And while you still have Transform Layer icon selected there, click with your left mouse button and hold, and pull the bat way beyond the stage area. You want to make sure you clear that line so you don't see the tips of his wings flapping later on. Now go back to frame 0 and push play. So we're still waiting, you see. And then now the bat's going to take off. Now I pushed stop and I went back to frame 0. You couldn't really see the bat because the cloud was in its way, but we can render out a sample animation right now. Go up here to File and Export Animation. A menu pops up with the information about the settings for the animation. Leaving this at the default right now should be just fine for our purposes. You can see down here that there's information about where the file's going to be saved, and the default is the same folder as your project file. So that's where you can look for it if you want to play it back later on. So click OK. And as it's rendering, it's going to look very strange. So I paused the tutorial video while mine was rendering, and I'm sure that yours probably didn't take too long, but I can see that everything's working out really well so far. My clouds are drifting along, or you could even call it fog, and then later on, about a third to a halfway through the animation, the bat flies out from behind the house. And that was all looking pretty good so far, and I'm going to pause now and continue in the next video.